It wasn't as cool as I'd hoped. Okay, I get a lot of questions about NYU and college, and I realized I've never actually made a video about it. So yesterday on my Instagram and Facebook, I asked you guys, what do you want to know about the college experience? And today I'm going to answer all my favorite questions. Before we get into this, I want to show you guys one thing real quick. I made a pen slot with duct tape so I can keep my table cleaner. Some background information. I'm a sophomore at NYU studying marketing in the Stern Business School, and I'm doing a studio art minor. Now, I'm going to try and be as honest as possible with you guys about the whole college experience. So I might do a little bit of complaining and also raving, but know that for the most part, I absolutely love college. It is probably the coolest time of my life. So much freedom, and it's just a really, really great experience, and let's get into it. Dan Mansfield 8 asks, what's been the hardest part about being in college? For me, the weirdest thing is the lack of structure. Some semesters will be really, really crazy. My freshman year, first semester, I had so much work that I could barely find time to skate. I would maybe get to skate once every week or two because I was so incredibly busy with school. Whereas this semester, all my classes are on Monday and Wednesday, so I have a 4-day weekend every weekend, and there's so little structure now that I have to just really figure stuff out to stay motivated and keep working. Another small challenge, it's also one of my favorite parts about college, is the independence. With independence, you have a lot of freedom to do whatever you want, but you also have more responsibilities. I'm not on a meal plan right now. I don't eat out that much. I cook almost all of my meals. I love it. I really, really enjoy cooking actually. I've been getting better and it's great. It takes time, it takes planning, and sometimes you run out of groceries and you have nothing to eat. Laundry, you have to take care of yourself, and it's a lot of fun. But it's definitely not as easy as living with your parents. Murillo15 asks, what made you want to go to NYU? The only reason why I wanted to go to NYU as a college is because it's a good school. As far as why I wanted to live in New York City, I have a million reasons. For the skateboarding, for the food, for the adventures, for the activities, just having access to everything without having to drive everywhere. I'm not a big fan of driving, so it's really nice. I skate almost everywhere now, and that's like the best thing in the entire world. Real quick, I know a lot of my international viewers, like in Canada, think college and university are two very different things. Here, we use those terms very interchangeably, so bear with me as I piss you off with my vocabulary. The Will McGrath asks, what's your plan for after college? Right now, YouTube has been awesome to me, and I think I want to pursue that full time. Could be cool to work part-time somewhere just to fill up the day. I have no idea where I want to live. I'm trying to live for a month in SF this summer, San Francisco, just to see what that's like. I love New York, but I haven't been enough around the world to really know where is exactly right for me. Next question, Sapin US asks, are there any good skate spots at NYU that you like to skate? Your YouTube channel is rad, by the way. Fist bump emoji. Just gonna return that fist bump. There are so many spots around New York. There are some really defined ones, like I live 2 blocks away from Black Hubba, but then there are also just like these random things you'll find on a street corner. So you really just have to keep an eye out, and you find plenty of stuff here. Lewis Brooks asks, what's your daily schedule look like? I have the most sporadic daily schedule now because without class, you really have to fill up your own time. So I like to cook a really great breakfast, do a little bit of reading, whether it be a personal book, some school reading, whatever, do some homework, respond to some emails, and then if I don't have class, I like to work on YouTube. So that might be going skating all day, that might be editing, that might be brainstorming concepts. I think it's really important to maintain a good work-life balance, and as much as I love what I do for a living, I also really like kicking it. So it's good not to get too absorbed by your work. And remember the fact that the reason why you work is so you can do the stuff that you like to do. Don't lose sight of that, don't get caught up in the rat race, and enjoy your life. It's a very cheesy answer for a pretty general question. Kyle Holland asks, what's the biggest thing you've learned from going to college? Like a life lesson, or just anything you've learned in general? Okay, biggest life lesson I've learned in college is that you have to stay organized. And with that, I mean organizing your thoughts, organizing your schedule, organizing everything. Sorry my voice is really bad. I went to a concert last night. I saw Unknown Mortal Orchestra. I had a great time. My voice didn't. Anyway, 2 things I like to do to stay really organized. 1, I keep a journal. I keep my thoughts in this. I keep my ideas, jokes, video ideas, anything. This keeps it all together. And I know I talk about this a lot, but I really recommend that everyone keep a journal because it will make your life better. And 2, I keep a calendar. I use Google Calendar just so I know when I'm hanging out with people, when I have to do assignments, everything. And I also keep an agenda. This is more for schoolwork, like homework, but it'll also be for videos, for when I have exams, for everything. A lot of writing stuff down and having it all structured because your mind is good, but sometimes it needs some supplements. Joseph Law 505 asks, and this is a great question, is it worth going to college or can someone be just as successful if they don't? First, I should say, you can be very successful not going to college. You can also be very unsuccessful going to college, and it really just depends what you pursue, what you study, your ambition levels. Second, college is a really nice middle ground between high school living with your family and real life. After I graduated high school, I definitely wouldn't be able to stay back and live with my parents. I'd had enough of that, but I also wasn't necessarily ready to go make a living and support myself and get a job and do all that stuff completely independently. College is this great middle ground where I'm doing a lot of the independent stuff, but I also have the safety net of I live in a dorm, so I don't have to worry about housing stuff. I don't have to worry about food if I want to be in a meal plan. It's really just like a great way to nurture you into being a real adult without having to deal with all of those responsibilities quite yet. Though I should say, going to NYU is not like the typical college experience. It's definitely more like real life. More on that later. Nick Wiley asks, stop eating fruit in your videos, question mark. Yeah, it's a question. I don't understand the question. Miles Perkowski asks, what are the 3 best and worst things about NYU? Miles, you're a very demanding, assertive man. I'm going to give you 1 good and 1 bad thing about NYU. Good thing is the people here are amazing. Something about going to college in the city brings in really great, independent, like-minded people who are creative, open-minded, and a lot better than the people in my high school, so that's incredible. Worst part about NYU, and this doesn't really affect me, but I know a lot of people it has. NYU, you can study just about anything from dentistry to business, but there are all these individual schools, and even though they're under the NYU name, they might as well be completely separate because it's really hard to transfer between them, and oftentimes you sort of end up locked within the school you originally got into. Stern, the business school, has like a 3% or 4%, some very low transfer rate within NYU. So if you are in some other school and decide, you know what, I want to go to Stern and study business, it's going to be really, really hard to be able to do that. NYU is pretty much just like a bunch of separate schools. But if you know what you want to do, it's totally no big deal, and you're gonna have a great time here. Brandon Fallon asks, how do you balance school and skateboarding? The trick is, like I said earlier, you have to stay organized. Being productive is much easier when you have a complete list of things that have to be done every day. And when you plan ahead, you can get all of your work done one day, so you can keep the other day more open and make time to go skateboarding. Mur Superstar asks, how long of a break do you think is healthy between high school and college? This is an excellent question. I started college immediately after graduating high school, but I really like the idea of doing a gap year. Maybe get a job, live somewhere interesting, just experience life a little bit and figure your stuff out, especially if you don't know what you want to study. In the same way that college is awesome, but it's not right for everyone, I'd say the same thing about gap years. Rocket Skatewax asks, what are some things you don't like about New York? And nothing summarizes this better than an article I found a few months ago called 8.4 million New Yorkers suddenly realized New York City is a horrible place to live. There are so many things that make New York excellent, but there are also a lot of things you have to deal with. For example, it's pretty gross in the summer. Trash makes everything incredibly smelly. It's incredibly cold in the winter. It's just a dirty city. It's so expensive to live here. For what you're paying for like a small 1-bedroom apartment, you could have like a mansion in the suburbs. There's just a bunch of stuff like that that adds up. And all in all, I think it's worth it, but there are definitely a lot of downsides that come with living in the city. Emily Parker asks, what was the hardest part of the application process? I'd say the worst part was waiting. The writing all the essays and the filling out the forms took a while. It wasn't great, but what I really didn't like was it was so nerve-wracking applying and then having to wait like 5 or 6 months to hear back, especially because NYU was my top choice and I applied to it regular decision, so I didn't hear for like 4, 5, 6 months. That was just a nervous time. Give us some New York pizza recommendations. I need to be awakened. Prince Street Pizza in Soho has an incredible Sicilian pizza slice. I highly recommend it. Carl Samika asks, if you had the choice to move across country to go to college, would you? I'm a filmer in New Jersey and I have the chance to go to school in California. College is a really cool period of time in your life to try something completely different location-wise, and that's because after college, you have a job, you have an apartment, and that kind of thing anchors you down to where you're living. Whereas in college, you have a dorm and you don't have a job, so it's really just like a great time to try something completely different. So Carl, I say, check out the West Coast, see if you like it. Amelia Soccer 4 asks, do you like your roommates? And wow, that opens a whole can of worms. There are 7 people living in my suite right now, and then one of them has a girlfriend that lives here, so 8 people. 2 of those kids are my friends, so it's 3 of us, and then 5 other people that I didn't know before I moved in. And it's really cool living with complete strangers and just getting to know these people that you would never otherwise talk to. But it's also a pain in the butt as far as cleaning goes, because with the common space, there's not much accountability because you don't know who made what mess. And as a result, it's just really messy and I end up doing most of the cleaning. It's awesome, but there are definitely some serious cons about it. I would love to just live with like 2 or 3 people and call it a day. Joseph Cliche asks, what was your backup plan if not NYU? I think I would have gone to UVA if NYU didn't work out. I got in, and it's a pretty good school, but I really didn't like the whole campus scene. I thought it was a slow life. I actually went and stayed for the weekend, and I had a fun time partying and going to all the frats, but I couldn't do that every weekend. I'd get bored of it. I really liked being able to skate and go all over the place and go on these huge adventures, and I would really get bored in Charlottesville, Virginia. No offense if any of you guys go to UVA. Eric Olivares asks, have you seen any pros around New York City? And if so, which ones? I've seen Zared Bassett, Sean Malto I talked to at LES the other day. A bunch of guys always are rolling through, so that's pretty sick. Jeremiah Grinowskito asks, do you miss high school? The only thing I miss is my mom cooking dinner for me most nights. That was pretty awesome, but all of the cons of New York City are completely outweighed by all of the amazing things. So I don't miss high school, and I love my life. Ryan Took asks, college life hacks? Incentives, especially food incentives. When I came back from my road trip, I had 5 huge videos to edit. So I bought a chocolate bar, I split it into pieces, and I said after I finish this much, I'll eat a piece. And that makes you work harder, it makes working more fun and more rewarding. I'm gonna combine 2 questions here. Mello Luis asks, how was your first day at NYU? And It's Brianna asks, did you know anyone going to NYU before you got there? I didn't know anyone going to NYU, and I like that because it's sort of like a fresh start. Something I knew from talking to other kids who were in college at the time was that a lot of kids end up befriending the people who lived on their floor the first year of school. So it was weird going to school on my first day, walking down my floor meeting kids, being like, okay, I'm probably gonna end up being friends with you. I definitely ended up befriending a lot of kids on the floor, and they introduced me to some amazing people, and it really wasn't that hard making friends. You had to be a little bit socially aggressive, but in the end it pays off, and after like a week or 2 of talking to a lot of strangers, you can solidify like a decent friend group that changes a lot, but you make friends here, and that's nice. The only thing I didn't like is that it took a few months to make like close friends. And there's something really weird about having only a bunch of like superficial, decent friends. And if you're a friendly person, I'm sure it won't be a problem. Mark Patrick Abbott asks, is every dorm as big as yours? Absolutely not. This dorm is insane how big it is. No other dorm is this big. We're very lucky. Voshina Kata asks, for what kind of person would you recommend NYU? NYU is so different from state schools, almost like the polar opposite. And I think the biggest thing is community. State schools have a huge community. They have campuses that everyone goes to, sports games that people like to go to, and they have big parties. Those are like 3 main places for students to congregate, and as a result, I think it creates more school spirit and a bigger sense of community. NYU is full of really small communities. The frat life is very small. It's there, but it's not a huge thing. The sports scene is also there, but it's a lot of D2 and D3, so they're not as good and the turnout's not great. I went to a basketball game last year. It was like maybe 70 NYU students total. What I like to say about NYU is that you really have to make your own fun. You can pretty much do anything you want here. You can go clubbing on a Tuesday, and I know plenty of kids that love to go clubbing on weekdays, and you could also see a comedy show or a jazz show or see some museums, and you really have a lot of options, but you have to make your own fun and be motivated to do that, because otherwise you end up kind of bored. The parties aren't always going to be as great as a school like Arizona State, where kids love to party there. I think it's a trade-off, totally worthwhile trade-off for me, because I like partying, but I also love everything else, and I would rather have complete access than excellent parties every weekend. Some people might not feel that way. All in all, there's something for everyone here, and it's an excellent time. Definitely the school for me, and I hope those of you who haven't decided what school you want to go to found this very informative. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them down below and I'll try my best to answer them. And if you want to see more NYU related videos, I have some day in the life's link over here to one of them. And that's really all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you eventually.